I just want to make sure. Is it,
Yes.
I don't see it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I don't see it.
Okay. Amy, the floor is all yours.
I call this meeting of the Arts and Culture Committee to order on Wednesday, September 18th, 2024. We will move to citizen comments. Do we have any citizens that have arrived for commenting to our meeting today?
No, ma'am, I don't see any.
We will move to agenda items. So we will first consider approval of the August 21st, 2024 meeting minutes. You should have those in front of you if you can take a moment to look at them.
Amy, I caught a mistake earlier today that we are going to need to fix, and then we will put this to vote next month. And it is in under A, it said Chair Amy Chair, and it needs to say Chair Amy Cave. So that needs to be fixed, and then we'll vote on that next month.
Very. Then we will move on from that since no action is necessary. We will move on to 24-697. We will receive a report from city staff.
And Perla, I'll open that up to you with, receive a report from the city staff regarding the historical park moving under economic development, tourism and planning.
Sorry, that's me. I was doing another agenda item. Perla Sarah, Director of Economic Development, Tourism and Planning, and Historical Park has been moved to planning, moved to tourism effective October 1st. So everybody will be reporting under us. We have some great ideas moving forward, so I just wanted to come and you guys will see my face moving forward at all these board meetings. So reach out to me if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, but we're excited for the staff and we're excited for the team. And thank you all for serving.
Great, and
Thank you, Perla.
here
I have a
today. I
question.
appreciate that.
Oh. There's a question, Amy.
It was about the minutes. Is there a way to say to amend the minutes per that one comment and then approve them? Or approve them based on that one amendment so that we don't have to vote next time? If that's the only issue,
Yes, that's the only issue.
then can I make a motion to approve as amended the minutes from last month?
Second.
You can,
You're in the
under A.
A. It says Chair Amy Chair. Yes. No, there you go. Okay.
It says Vice Chair Amy Chair, and it should say Vice Chair Amy Cade. And that's, I didn't catch it when I was
So
proofing that.
hold on, just to clarify, Dawn, would you read the section as written and then read what the proposed change is? Then we'll need to get a motion to approve as amended and a second, and then we can vote.
Okay, I make the motion.
Well, first read it.
I read it first.
Mhm.
Okay, under A, call to order, under presiding, Vice Chair, Amy Chair, needs to be changed to presiding, Vice Chair, Amy Cave.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from last month as amended.
A second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Do I hear any in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Thank you. Let's move forward to 24-698. And we will begin receiving subcommittee updates and take appropriate action. I would like to first move to Art in Public Spaces. Now with that, Bonnie, does that cover the west side? No, that's a different thing. So we don't have an update from Art in Public Spaces, correct?
I'm gonna look here at the, give me one sec. Want to see what I put for that. Give me 1 second. So art in public spaces, as we talked about last month, we have all three art pieces for the West Side Art Trail are in the city's possession, and we have are excited about that and moving forward. As far as anything else, I want to discuss it under receive a West Side Art Trail update under the meeting agenda, and we'll talk about what all we've included in the agenda that we can share with you. But I'd like to discuss it more under West Side Art Trail.
Great. Thank you. Artist outreach?
I have a question.
Yes.
There's a question.
I have a question about art in public spaces.
Yes.
In our June meeting, before we took the July break, there was much discussion and a presentation about art in City Hall and the as you enter and the space behind that. I was not here at the last meeting, but I saw no comments in any of the minutes about that. And so is that still something that's on the table, or has that been delayed, or what is an update on that?
That has been on hold as of now, so it is, as far as we know, delayed. And when we know more, we will share that and we will add it back into the agenda.
Thank you.
Amy?
Thank you. Artist outreach. There has been no change at this point, although I am excited when we start talking about subcommittees because I think I have some new members, one in particular that I think is going to have some bang up ideas for artist outreach. So I'm excited for that. Let's move on to grant making and funding. David.
I have two handouts that are really to update the group from June. Is the first one. And this, even though it seems like it's a very thick handout, Amy, this is an email that you received back in June before we took the break, and it was just where Hillary was explaining the process that we are to go through when we discover grants, and how we raise those up and ultimately submit them to the city. And so I just felt like this is a good place to start. There were maybe three different places to look for grants here. One was the Texas Commission on the Arts. One was the National Endowment for the Arts. And I can't remember what the third one was. And so this is all public information, so there's nothing here that is secret. You can go to the website and look for it. So I just wanted that to be in everyone's hand. And then secondly, the one coming around, sorry about this. It's an email I sent today to both Hillary and Bonnie in an attempt to follow the process. This is a T-Mobile grant in the amount of $50,000 that is available for elected leaders, town managers, employees, or nonprofit leaders to submit for this grant. And it's not necessarily restricted just to arts and culture. I think it could be used for parks. There is, there are some parameters, but nevertheless, I felt like this followed the spirit of the last direction we got, which was a lot of these grants need to really be applied for by the city staff. And so that's the second thing that I'm sort of putting there. And then my question is, how do we then, the process is that we present it to the Arts and Culture Committee, and then the Arts and Culture Committee reviews and recommends to staff to go forward with it. So now we've got National Endowment of the Arts, Texas Commission on the Arts, T-Mobile, that I guess I'm putting in front of the Arts and Culture Committee. Do we need to wait another 30 days till, the next cycle before we vote on that? Or what is the process that we need to follow on that? There are some deadlines, as you all know, with grants, especially government money, Texas State and National Endowment of the Arts. There's some deadlines for those. So the longer if we only meet once a month and we keep delaying, then we run the rest of those things.
T-Mobile one says the deadline is September 30th.
Right, but it's quarterly.
Okay.
Then the new one, they're taking them quarterly up to 5 years.
Gotcha.
I just looked at it. And so another one will open October 1st and run for 3 months for you to submit an application, and it'll close December 31st. But I'm gonna defer to Hillary on this to talk a little bit about,
I can make a comment.
Oh, sure.
Grant to be approved, for us to even go and apply for a grant has to be approved through council as of right now. So we can definitely make a recommendation and take it to council, but I used to handle the grants for not only Farmers Branch, but other municipalities. And before you apply, you have to have approval from council, because is there a grant match and then the reporting structure? And then depending on how much grants and how much money there is, we may have to report it on our annual financial statements. So just keep that in mind as well.
And then I have a question, especially for the NEA grants. The NEA grants all have a match. Just because I do them all the time. Second, they require a project. So so I don't know how it's cart before the horse. How do you do that? Because obviously we would want to give a full-fledged thing over. So then we would essentially have to have the skeleton at least of a project that then would be funded by that. So then both are being approved by city, correct? Because otherwise we're saying we want a grant, and we don't know what we're going to do with it. Okay, just making sure.
That's my understanding as well. Is
When you
that
say a
we
project, you mean
first.
Sorry. I was asking, and when you say a project, you mean we've decided to put this here, or like a city street project that has improvements that has an art feature in it?
So specifically for the NEA one, I can tell you because I've applied to them before, they're usually involves something that's considered a project. So it's either something where we're working with an artist, or it's an event that's unique to the city, something that hasn't been done before, which then needs some structure and some what dates do we want to do? What components is it going to have? Is it going to need what's the budget that it's going to cost? Because not only for the match, but for what you're asking. So it's not a grant where you say we already do this thing, give us money. For NEA, typically it's we want to create a new thing, give us money.
Gotcha.
But there's a lot of different NEA grants. I mean, there's probably 200. I don't know. There's Arts Create. There's a lot of different ones. Some are for new works. Some are for existing organizations. There's just a lot of different choices out there, I think. So that's really, I guess, maybe another process question. I'll speak for myself. I think I've been on here now for 1.5 years or 2 years, and we just got direction on grants last June. Now it's a little bit different. And so there seems to always be a reason why we don't move forward with either grant making or funding. There was a long period of time where we talked about establishing a nonprofit 501c3. And after much discussion, we decided that we really didn't need to do that. We don't have a line of people out the door wanting to hand us money. And if we did, the city already can accept donations. They do it all the time with park benches and other things. So we kind of set that to the side, and now we focus on grant making and funding. And so that's sort of where we are.
Okay, can I ask a question? So when we're talking about like projects that we need to define, we've talked for a while about the functional furniture, art piece furniture. Is that something, Hillary, that might qualify?
Depends on, it would depend on the grant. It definitely depends on the grant, but that goes back to if this board doesn't have a budget, it would be asking city council for that portion. I'm all for grants, but I think there does need to be a process, kind of like we do have a city process. I like the idea if the Arts and Culture Board, of course, this is a recommendation, or a suggestion, the Arts and Culture Board give a list of the grants, give that to the city grant coordinator. We have a grant coordinator and they can go, but I'm just curious about our grant match, unbudgeted items.
Can I interject about something? I'm an engineer and there's projects that we have that the North Central Texas Council of Governments actually has a component for like improvement. So for instance, that area in front of the Mustang branch or Mustang Station, yeah. There's the whole back and forth about, not reducing the lanes or whatever, but there is like 3 million on the table that the city has turned down that I think is kind of ludicrous because they can improve that area by adding the sidewalks and adding some of the infrastructure, the public furniture, what did you call it? Art furniture?
Functional art.
Functional art furniture, yeah. And there's certain grants that actually call for like beautification and pedestrian improvements. And sometimes if we incorporate that into it, then that's another like grant that can be applied to a project. Like the city of Joppa, which is southeast Dallas, it's a very underserved community. They've been promised a bridge that goes over a rail line, and they had an art component to it where they were able to reach out to the community and have like an art design piece that's going to be incorporated into the railing of that overhead structure. So that's an opportunity worth looking at where maybe, if there's improvements done along Valley View in that area with the improvements to the sidewalk, and the walking pedestrian facilities from the Firehouse Theater to, the restaurants in that area, then there might be like an art component, especially since that area is right adjacent to an underserved community that I know that there's been talks about also servicing Squire Park. And I'm not sure if that's not part of the West Side Ice Trail, but that's part of that kind of historic business district that we may be able to define as the business district of Farmers Branch, since there's not really one like there is in Carrollton. A long statement, I'm sorry.
We don't.
If y'all have questions.
We appreciate
please
your,
Ask,
your comment.
like,
Well, I have a question for the committee as being new. Are there a list of, like a wish list of projects that, that this committee has discussed that we could then say, oh, that project that we would love to do that we've already talked about has this match, that would fit this grant parameters. Is there something like that
Well,
that exists?
So what we were gonna talk about after we discuss each subcommittee is our plan of work for 2024, 2025. And I've included kind of the format for that. And a lot of you being new members can decide where your gifts lie and what committee that you feel would you would best serve on. And if that's something that you wanted to put down as a goal to come up with, 1 or 2 locations or a new project that you see, it's something that this subcommittee can discuss. And then we can finalize it probably November to decide what exactly our plan of work is, and does it coincide with the strategic map of the city and their goals? And if it does, and it's something that is obtainable, we could definitely vote on that. Hillary, do you want to add to
I
that?
don't
Or
think it's a great idea to answer your question. Is there a specific list of projects? No. I think it's a great idea to come up with one, because just with any of the grant funding, just as the grant is saying, that yeah, the first thing they're gonna ask for is, what do you want funding for? And that's exactly what city council's gonna ask. You're going after a grant, what is the project? I looked briefly when David sent it, the T-Mobile, and that's, this one is intended for a shovel-ready project. And it kind of details everything. So I think if we had a list of projects that were ready, just like this is shovel-ready, of this is what the idea, this is what we're interested in, be able to identify grants that fit in those parameters, and also looking at each section of, does it fall for a municipality? What are there, funding challenges that go along with it? You know, what is the staff involvement? How long is the project? This one has to be completed within 12 months. What are the status updates? How frequent are those? Is it 6 and 12 months? Is it every month? Is it, and have maybe a checklist so that we can determine this grant would fit this project, have a whole package together, then be able to present all that information to council for them to make the best decision, have everything laid out for them. I think would be the best option moving forward, to help answer their questions, to decide if this is, the option to take that, suggestion and then decide.
And David has been on the subcommittee alone here. Robert Barsamian has left us, so David has been handling this on his own. So I'm sure he would welcome a partner or two to help with the subcommittee
And I guess my thought is this really Arts and Culture Committee work? Or is it really city staff work because all we are is an advisory committee. We're not passing anything. We're just making recommendations. And so we can come up with our laundry list of things, but my experience on other committees, planning and zoning, for example, Planning and Zoning Commission doesn't come up with anything. All the cases are brought to us and they're set before us and we make decisions on it. I've observed other committees that have worked on historical this and that or whatever, and it starts getting difficult would be the word I would use once you have a committee trying to create some things that may or may not be within the city alignment. And so just based on all of that and having sat on this subcommittee for a year and a half, I'm would be thrilled if this, if it's city staff and we sunset this subcommittee, there's not really any reason for us to keep meeting. I mean, unless the deal is we want y'all to bring us a list of grants. There are grant groups out there that, and this, you can go and put in your criteria and it'll spit out a list of here's the grant you should apply for and here's how much you should ask for and kind of all those things. And so, I guess I'm not sure if we're not gonna have a 501c3, which is what we decided a year ago.
Right.
And now we're kind of saying, all the grants need to be approved by the council and there needs to be a project and we don't have a list of projects and, then it seems to me that the grant making and funding, which was a legacy committee that I inherited, I didn't.
Right.
Came when I got here, maybe we need to sunset that and not even try to recruit other folks unless we know why we exist. That would be my comment.
I guess my assumption, if it's okay to interject, as we get into this other subcommittee work, there would be more, we would identify more opportunities for art and public spaces and maybe the festival subcommittee would come up with another, and then so by the end of the year or the end of Q1 or something, we would have a list of things that could be, that we could then recommend and.
Well,
say,
we're not here to recommend.
Okay.
It would be considerations,
Okay.
to bring before the council. And we have talked in depth about this. The subcommittees that are in place now, they evolve. And maybe what the subcommittee was a year ago, the needs have changed. The council has changed, the city goals. We want to get more in line with that. So that was our discussion for this month here's our plan of work. What do we want it to look like? What do we want our goals to be for the arts and culture? do we want to keep the 4 subcommittees? It used to be 5 subcommittees and then I'm fairly new to the committee. But then they brought it down to 4. So do we need 4 subcommittees? Do we want 3? Do we want to rename them? Do we want to have a different outlook? And that is something that can be discussed. Included is the plan of work, and it's just like a template, and I can send you an email version of it too, but I wanted you to visually see it, and then you can decide where your gifts lie and where you'd like to help. If you have a one that you'd like to serve on that you feel it should be renamed, something different, we can then put that on the agenda for next month, discuss it, maybe grant funding becomes a different name and it looks a little bit different. And what that looks like, that's for you all, to discuss. And we can, I also included the city's strategic map that tells a little bit about their vision and leave it at, leave it there to.
I feel, I just feel like, one of the good things that happened in June, the last meeting that we had, which I brought up earlier, the city said, oh, we want a piece of art at City Hall in this space right here. Why don't y'all give us some ideas? That was awesome.
Mhm.
And then there was a presentation and there was a deck and you showed us ideas and we could bring our own or whatever. That wasn't us trying to push something through. That was the city saying, hey, we want your input. And that's my experience on a different board or commission. I know they don't all look the same, but I know this group has struggled with pushing things forward, back and forth with what are we supposed to do? And it seems like there's some clarity around that, for me, at least, would be helpful. I can't speak for any of the new folks, but just for me personally, Don's over here working on this dance thing that is a add-on to the Bloom and Bluegrass deal, which is fine. Is that city approved or not? Is it city sponsored or, what is it? Is it, and I don't know that we have to always know that, but it seems weird. It seems weird to me if we all decided, okay, the Arts and Culture Committee is going to do a paint with a twist on the pickleball court at Mansfield Library. What do y'all think of that? Oh, that's a great idea. Well, let's go get a grant for that. If it has to go through council anyway, and it's an event, which we're cutting events, then what are we doing? That's all I'm saying. It makes me scratch my head and go, this is weird.
I know you said you inherited the grant making and funding. Did that come to life prior to the Mercer development that had, a certain size? So it required public art?
It was here, this particular committee was here because there was a member like you who had some money from a grandparent and they wanted to put it towards the arts and farmers branch. And so they created a nonprofit themselves and put some money into this foundation. And so that's how it got on the list. And now what do we do? And blah, blah, blah. Well, they ultimately, left the committee and didn't serve their full term. Well, the nonprofit went with them because it's not the city's nonprofit, it's their nonprofit. And then they wound it down and ultimately, they had $400 left or something. And so that's how it got on here. Is it started, there was a person wanting to make a donation. They set up their own nonprofits. And through that, it exploded into grant making and funding and all this other stuff. And then we've just sort of been trying to carry that bag for a while. We finally sort of removed the nonprofit piece because it really didn't make sense. As I said, there's not, to my knowledge, there's no one out there with a $5,000 or $10,000 check that's trying to hand it to us for arts and culture. If there was, I guarantee you, the city staff would figure out how to, and we don't need a nonprofit to do that. So what do we want the nonprofit to do? It's not like we're getting city funding to give out grants to arts, so we just decided we don't know what we want a nonprofit for, so let's take that off the table and stop talking about it. And that's kind of where I am with the rest of grant making and funding, unless it morphs, as Chris said, into something else as we go through our scope of work, then that's great. But right now, it feels like we don't have a list of projects, and city council has to approve all the grants anyway. And there's now a staff person that's doing the grant management, if that's the right word. So I don't know that that's within our scope of work. That's just my opinion.
Well, I'll say
Amy,
as,
oh, sorry, Rita.
I'll say as a new member, the first meeting I kept hearing from someone from the city that we don't recommend, we advise, and I'm not really sure what the difference in that is, but she was very specific about that over and over. And, okay, and then we can't do the grants, and I'm not sure, I feel like I have a very foggy idea of the purpose of this. We don't put on festivals, but the city does, but we have a festivals subcommittee. As a new person, I'm not sure what the purpose is, and I'm not sure what the purpose of this scope of work is, because I feel like every idea I'm gonna think of, we're gonna be told that we can't do that, or that's not our. I would like just some clarity about what we're supposed to be doing.
Amy, do you want to discuss that a little bit of what was talked about in July and moving forward?
Yes, so when I went to the city council meeting where it was a session, I think you were there actually, maybe. Anyway, we talked about that each of the committees, their purpose is, or boards, their purpose is to serve as committee, or also to do research for council. So if they have something that comes up that's arts related and they're interested in our input, then they will send that to us. Like at one point they had discussed that they were going to look at replacing the fountain at the Pocket Park that's across from the branch. Now, they've done further research and that's not the appropriate move for them. But at the time when they were considering removing that fountain and then installing an art piece in its place, then the research for suggestions for art pieces would fall to our committee. So some of it is as it comes down the pike, they will hand us projects to get our input, and then they will make decisions on that. And what was made clear to me was that they would like, when we are discussing these things, for example, when we made advisements or suggestions for the mural to go on the side of the restroom at Hoya Park, they would like to know our reasoning why, how we came to a decision, so that when they are making final choices, they can go back and look at the different steps involved and why we suggested this over something else. But it was, again, very clear that we are not making the suggestions. We're simply saying, this is what we discussed. This is what we would advise you to do, but certainly it's council's decision. So it would be kind of individual projects that would come across our table.
From council.
From
So,
council.
So as a group, we don't come up with ideas. Okay.
No. So that the point that we were making is that David's right. The subcommittees that exist now may not all be applicable, because we have to remember too, when some of these subcommittees were established, it was prior to this new council. And so every time you have a new council be elected, the vision changes. So we have to make sure we're in alignment, which is why Bonnie included the strategic map for the city. There are different goals in place at this time, and we need to make sure we're meeting those goals. Now, some things that are still important, and we're jumping over Dawn being able to give her report. I apologize, Dawn. We'll come back to you. But some things that.
And there is a question due when you're done.
Okay, so some things that do seem to be important are the maintaining this artist database of local artists so that they can be considered for projects, and so that we can have networking events so that we're connecting artists together. That seems to be something that's important, as well as creating a database for artists when the city specifically needs projects. For example, they need to put in an art piece at a park. Who are some of the artists that we've already looked at their work and vetted them and, you know, kind of categorized? This is the level of spending that this would be. This is a project that would be custom. This is a project that's off the shelf, ready to go. So they would like to have that maintained so that that is ready to go when funding becomes available or when a project becomes necessary. So that's art in public spaces. That in particular is something that's important. They are very interested in the electrical boxes and traffic signal boxes being wrapped again. They really would like a contest for that. So, you know, we put out a call and then we adjudicate that. A bookmark contest again. So something like that. My understanding, David, on the grant making and funding is that it would kind of flip, and it would be more of, these are some projects that we've identified that would be good, like a functional art piece. We've talked a lot about the preserve, you know, wanting to consider having a project in place, an art piece maybe that could be at the John Burke when the time is right and when the funding is available, and then what are potential ways that could be funded. So those are the things that were identified as perhaps committees that need to be reshaped, reformed, and of course, Branch Arts Live. So those things being reshaped and reformed so that we could continue with those. Did that answer the question, Rita?
Sort of, you know, partly. Is there any, besides electrical boxes and bookmarks, is there anything that the council has indicated that they want us to be working on?
Are the funds for the Mercer Crossing West Side Art Trail are all depleted, or there's still like art pieces that they want to be installed and they have money set aside for?
What? I think that'll come up in the West Side Art Trail update, correct, Bonnie?
Yeah, yes.
That is, yeah, I think, like Bonnie said, we were able to identify specific money for specific projects, which you'll be able to do. Again, with the budget that just happened, we were limited to some, but there's money to do what needs to be done, and we can talk about future long-term goals as well, and funding source for it.
Can we let the question that was pending be asked?
Hi,
Yes.
Amy. So I know we have a chair and we have the secretary, and we don't have a treasurer because we don't have a budget, but we have the structure of an organization. But is there an operational document for this committee? Because at every other board I've ever sat on, there's a set of bylaws, and then each committee will have like some kind of operational document which says, this is why you exist. And I think she was asking, you know, it would be really helpful if we knew why we exist as a committee. And I don't know yet, really,
Okay,
other than that we're just supposed to talk about stuff.
my understanding from council is that they would like us to create that.
There is
But then we would be advising. then we would be in an advisory role.
Carla has a comment.
But-
No, there is an ordinance. So each committee and board does have an ordinance. So it is in the chart, yeah,
And
the
where is
city
that?
charter. It would be online and we could probably
Could
include.
we get that, could we get copies of that ordinance
be
that
great.
created, it's here?
You
Yeah,
got
it's
it?
online.
And where do we find that?
I'm just I just put in Farmers
Under
Branch
boards and commissions.
Arts and, yeah, I put in Arts and Culture Committee.
Uh-huh.
Took me straight to boards and commissions and it starts talking about their purpose. And then it breaks it down into each one
Or
of
does it
them.
say what we're
Yes, each
supposed to
board.
do?
Yeah.
Oh, that's, okay, it would be handy to have that handy, so, I should just look that up, or maybe we can get that emailed to everybody?
The ordinance is not on there. It has just a brief description of each of the boards and committees, but the ordinance you'd have to probably pull from,
The charter.
yeah, or, we call
So,
it.
I'm not a voting member, I'm just an alternate guy, so I'm trying to stay quiet, but
What's funny is it reads, the board makes recommendations in connection with public art program and other matters requested by the city council or city administration.
Requested, kind of like they did for that city hall.
Yes,
So the
Yep.
recommendation was made correct. So it does align with what the
So-
chief said.
making recommendations, but it's because we're asked for an
as a
opinion
response,
on something.
but not just kind of like we're sitting around talking and thinking, gee, it'd be really great if we could do, like Mickey Rooney. We could do a
Brainstorming,
show.
yeah, there's no brainstorm.
So is it, Amy, do you think maybe you could assign someone to just make sure that all of the board members and the committee members and even the alternates get
Is that the ordinance?
copies of that document?
I will email them out.
Okay,
Would be happy to email it out.
great. That would be helpful because then we'll kind of know what we're doing and why we're doing it. Sorry, I don't mean to sound sarcastic.
No, we appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
As an alternate, you have the same
Oh, I know,
voice.
but I know, but I'm like the new guy and I'm one of those.
They're all the new guys.
I'm one of those stay in my seat kind of guy.
Amy, can we let Dawn do an update?
Yes, so let's move on to festivals and contests, please.
All right, we have Branch Arts Live. The submissions are due this Friday, September 20th. And then we'll know how many pieces were submitted, and then Brianna and I will coordinate, and Amy, and see which ones are going to be accepted. And our hope is that by next Friday, that those companies will know who's performing, and then they'll get the information. And that event will be October 20th from 1 to 4. If any of you want to come out and join us, help, or just be there as enjoying the festival, we would love as many of you out there as possible. I think last time it was just Amy and myself, I think last time. So it would be great if others could join us. I think it's coming along. Brianna and I met before this, the subcommittee, and we kind of went through some things to make sure we're on the same page, and been communicating with also Amy and Bonnie and making sure that we're ready to go for the event. So that's where we're at with that. And then we'll have one more meeting. So I would like to go ahead and do another subcommittee meeting. I think it's
5:30.
at 5:30. I believe it's October 9th. off the
Yeah,
top
it's
of my head.
early. Yeah, it was requested to have it a week earlier.
So
So
then
it
that
is.
will actually help us to, make sure everything is taken care of. We will have hopefully a couple of arts groups selling some jewelry and ceramics and that kind of thing there as well. We're looking at having possibly a food truck. We kind of had a little bit of a hiccup, but we think we can get over that little hump. Then as far as electrical boxes, I think we're just waiting to hear when we have the next one, if we have the funding for it, and which ones will be selected, and then we can move forward with that contest at any point in time once we get that information.
One of the things that was on the approval for the city council meetings was like 110 updated traffic signal locations. And if they're updating all the traffic light facilities and stuff like that, there's gonna be new boxes. So if we could get a list of all the intersections, so we can like see what facilities are there, whether it's like a school zone or whatever, then we can get a better idea of what boxes are gonna be in that area.
And Jennifer, to that, I also think it would be helpful, you know, if anybody's available to drive by, because we might want to do a site-specific call for artists so that, you know, they might be taking in the location and environment into account when they're creating the piece.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Is that a subcommittee, the box subcommittee?
It's under festivals and contests.
It's, yeah, it's a contest.
It's part of.
So they do a hall of art.
Contest is how it's classified. I now get it.
But it could be if we.
It's spin off.
That's right.
And make it its
Right.
own
And
thing.
it's growing.
And that's exactly right. And the beautiful thing, it has a visual impact that's immediate throughout the city. It's pretty cost effective with a shelf life of 3 to 5 years, could be longer. So it's a fairly easy and expensive way to really make an impact with art around the city.
Mhm.
And some of those electrical boxes aren't so pretty, so it's beautiful to, whether it's our branding or it's artwork from a call, it's a great way to
And
showcase
we might
art
be
in the city.
highlight those artists that win the contest a little bit more, perhaps have them at a city council meeting and be recognized, also have them in some of our media that goes out, so that we're kind of spotlighting them.
Absolutely.
In the past with those contests, has it been for Farmers Branch artists, or is it just open to anyone? Is there any, I mean, if we're supposed to have this running list of artists within the city, it makes sense to me to support those artists and provide some opportunities for them within their own city. And I don't think every electrical box needs to be done by a Farmers Branch artist, but it would be nice to every once in a while say.
Some of them are.
But even if that is, yes, but was it because it was restricted to Farmers Branch artists or not? Or just,
It was-
they just happened to win?
It was Farmers Branch artists, CFBISD students, Brookhaven students.
Okay.
I think it was all local students, correct? Correct, Dawn?
It was, I think it was all the CFB or anything like in farmers, like in this area. It was that's what it was open to. And then,
And if you worked in Farmers Branch or you
Live,
were a
live,
resident of Farmers Branch, I think you did 2 different contests
We did.
and had 2 different criterias.
we did.
I would think you would have a student contest separate from a professional artist.
Well, and that's the thing, if we did a professional artist, would they want compensation?
Is there no compensation?
There's not.
It's the beauty of having your work on a box.
I mean, no, there is something to that for sure.
They can still keep the rights to their own design, but they give
Yeah.
access for,
But yeah, they're
Used by the
welcome to submit, but
Right.
their artwork gets displayed.
We have another comment.
But as a person who makes my living as an artist, I just personally, and a lot of people in my profession do too, have a feeling that doing stuff for exposure only exposes that you do stuff for free. And if we don't pay them, then we shouldn't really expect to have a professional result, but.
I was
Just saying.
joking. It was sarcasm.
I know,
Probably
I know,
that was not well
But
delivered.
if there
My
is no
apologies.
compensation for something that we're saying as a city, we value art. And we value art so much that we're gonna put it on some of our property. And so that citizens who come through our town can say, you know, not only do they have really cool parks, but they take art seriously. We should take the artists seriously as well by paying them. That's my opinion. I said I was gonna stay in my lane, but I didn't, sorry.
Well, you're an artist. You
That
stay in
is
the
my,
lane.
that is my lane.
Yeah.
so.
No, I don't disagree with that. I think maybe this might not be the project for that. There may be other opportunities because like when we did the call for the mural on the side of the Firehouse Theater, that artist paid for that work.
Correct.
So I think there are opportunities. This may not be the one.
Mhm. Okay.
So to answer your question, whoever asked it actually, yes, maybe boxes need to be their own thing because then we also do, sometimes we do sign toppers and sometimes we've been asked to figure out the wording for a plaque for an art piece that's being installed. So there have been a lot of different projects that have come our way and perhaps we need to divide that out rather than having it all on one. I think these are all things we need to think about. So let me just clarify. Dawn, have you completed your report?
Have I completed my report?
Yeah, did you
Yeah.
finish?
Oh, yeah.
no.
Yeah, I'm done.
Event is
Like,
over. Now we're
I'm
on.
done. I was like, I need to, what else you want?
We went
Yes,
a little
yeah, I'm
bit.
good.
Sure, we're moving forward.
I would have interjected.
So hopefully that gives everybody kind of an idea that when we're talking about we need to review the plan of work, we need to review the plan of work. We need to look at this again. We need to reconsider what we're doing because there are things that we're being asked to do that we need to make sure we're fulfilling those projects. I would love for us to move on to the west. Well, Bonnie, do we want to discuss the different subcommittees right now, or do we want to go to West Side Art Trail?
I think we want to discuss the subcommittees because I think it needs to be a discussion. And I think people, the board needs to really decide on, what subcommittees are necessary. And next month we could vote on who would like to be part of what, whether there's 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it does need to be a discussion.
Okay, so everybody has included with their, or they should have, we were emailed, plan of work outline. 20,
Email out the plan of work for 2023, 2024, which you should have received. That did kind of outline what the previous board did put down on their goals for that year.
So we had an artist out. So let me just state this. So what we're being asked on the plan of work, what we have been asked previously is for 3 goals, a timeline, and how those goals were going to be accomplished.
And I'm gonna say up to 3 goals. So
to-
if the committee only has 1 goal, but they're gonna be more in depth or then 1 goal is fine. It's just, there's a space there for 3 goals, up to 3 goals. And it may not be fulfilled in 24, 25. It may be a 2-year goal. It's just what is the focus for
And
that subcommittee?
that worksheet was developed by the city and given to us to complete.
Is
So
there,
go ahead.
Amy, I'm sorry, Amy, you just went through and said some things that were in front of us that we were requested to do by the city, the contest for the boxes and those sorts of things. Is there a list somewhere, like a typed up list that says this is our
To-dos.
these are our to-dos that have been given us, current list from the city?
I don't believe, was the electrical boxes driven from the city, or was that something that the subcommittee? Because that would have been before.
You're asking me to remember from a long time ago.
Yeah.
I think it was something that we talked about begin with. And then we brought it to the city and they loved the idea and then they
Ran with it.
ran with it. And then we kind of determined, we kind of request like, okay, like to do another contest? Is there money for it? Where the locations, sometimes we can make recommendations or advising of where those placements are, because last time we wanted one in front of Brookhaven. You know, because we thought those artists at Brookhaven, it would be a great place for them to see their artwork as they go into the school. So we kind of thought through just some different things like that as we went through that process. But it seems like we always get really good positive feedback on those particular contests. And it probably really started when the former mayor wanted a particular contest, and we kind of just ran with it in a different way.
So the electrical boxes was an idea that came from this committee and was brought to council. That's kind of the opposite of what we've been hearing is what we're supposed to be doing.
It was under a different
Leadership.
council, different leadership.
Okay.
So it's kind of been a
The wind
reversal.
blows different directions. Okay, yeah.
Exactly, because it used to be where we were kind of, yeah, so it's just a little different.
Okay.
So I've done goals and reach goals and all those things for over 30 years.
Woohoo.
I have an MBA in organizational management, so this is kind of my wheelhouse. This is a fantastic document, but the only thing that has arts and culture on it is CO4. And it says to support arts, culture, and recreation in Palm Springs. I'm telling you, with my MBA, I would struggle to come up with goals with that being the only guideline. And maybe if we had the ordinance in front of us, that might help us as well. But I know the engineer in the room would struggle with this. And I just feel like I don't have enough, I've sat on the committee for over a year. I don't feel like I have enough guidance to start putting together reach goals. I mean, I can come up with I can make stuff up with all of you. I don't know if that's what you want us to do. That seems like that might not be the best use of everyone's time.
I wonder though, if we're getting ahead of ourselves, stressing about the goal, if we need to focus on what the committees kind of based on because you've shared a lot, which is very eye-opening for us, because we definitely had questions about grants committee last time. If we know that's something we don't want to do, but we know that the electrical boxes contest could honestly somewhat support itself as a whole committee of work. Arts Live is growing, so do those really need to be together? I wonder if we kind of look at the projects that are working and then see what committee work is around that, and then you build your goals from there. Because the goals are associated with the subcommittees. They're not necessarily specific to, like, we have to align, but it's also based on what the subcommittee work is.
I'll just say, Arts Live is growing, and Don and Amy did a phenomenal job last year with no budget. I don't know if we are following the direction of council and staff in that. Because when I watch the budget meetings, the Parks Department is cutting events, cutting Denton Drive Live, cut. And here we are, we've added an event. And is it city sponsored or not? You know, it's just a weird gray area that, I don't know. So.
Well, and we were able to do it without the funding or increasing the workload of the city. So we problem solved to the point of how can we make this happen, but it not necessarily be an extra thing on anybody.
So all I'm saying is I'd like to be motivated. An attaboy would be great. Oh, that was good. Thanks for doing that. Let's do more of that. Or no, let's not do more of that. Let's just keep what we're doing. Or you know what? This is the last year. Some sort of direction would be quite helpful before we establish a committee that creates more of things that we may not be supposed to be doing.
Yeah, we almost need a list of like all the potential projects and the projects that are like green lighted. Because like a developer could come in and buy property over in the warehouse area that they wanna do, they get the city loan some money to like improve the facade. But if we have a list of artists that like, we can be like, hey, maybe if you wanna do a mural on the side of your business or, you know, something like that, then that could be a way that we like help to liaison that process and encourage arts in the community.
I will say that that is more likely a reason why it came under tourism, to separate the Parks and Rec from this as a different funding source. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bonnie, in November, the Arts and Culture Committee goes to study session to council.
Correct.
At that given point in time, I think that is the best option to ask for direction as far as this, or if you have projects, electrical boxes. But I do feel like this is the alignment that we're going with the tourism, to get there. To add on, tourism also has some projects where we would need some arts and culture ideas. Not to divulge anything, but I feel like we're eventually getting there. I just need to get on my feet, so.
Well,
But
that's nice to know.
We all appreciate it, but we're getting to a place where, it would be good, but I agree. I think that for the past year, because you've been here, this is my second meeting.
Yeah.
So for you to be here a year, I get that, but I feel like with what you guys have and what, the next item we have, I think that is there. And I think that we're getting to somewhere where we want to be. And so thank you for your patience, but I think that we have some ideas that are coming down the pipeline.
It seems like artist outreach is something that we still need. That's come up several times. I'm kind of excited about that, but we can, and given everything we've said, that we're not making recommendations and the present council isn't really looking for that. It does seem like it would make sense if we're doing artist outreach and compiling this list that it would be within the scope of that to have not recommendations, but potential additional projects that could be considered, you know.
It's a resource.
Right. So I don't know if that would be something that would go under one of these goals, or if that all wraps up under one goal, or.
Well, I think it could be open to discussion more for next month, and as Perla said, maybe the discussion is what do we see, arts and culture, that we could bring to the table for the November study session to ask council and have a proposal for them, and what our goals are gonna look like under economic development, tourism, and planning. This- With Perla being the director, it is gonna look a little different,
That's
being
good.
under.
Yeah, we're kind of getting new information tonight that changes the lens through which we look at everything. And so I think we do need to discuss, and we do need to kind of figure out exactly where we're going. My understanding is a lot of what we're going to be doing is going to be responsive, correct? That we're going to be asked to fill a need or to do some research, and we will respond to that. So my understanding is we need to be in preparation with that. For example, having artists that we have already, kind of looked at their art and said, yes, we can suggestion that this would be a great artist to create a piece for wherever you're talking about, or absolutely the murals, Jennifer, like you said, that's such a great opportunity to display artists' work. So I think we need artist outreach, and I don't know if that also includes artists that are not our local artists, or if that's those may be two separate things, or they may be the same. Because we're talking about having a registry or a database of local artists that we can go to. But then we also need to have some sort of registry database of other artists, muralists, sculptures, painters for future projects. So we need to discuss, are those two separate, or are those the same committee? That seems to be something that might come up quite a bit.
I think they need to remain separate, but they are definitely going to be involved with one another.
I have a question. Is there any discussion on allowing this committee to have their creativity? Because I think this group is, obviously you're here for a reason. We're all probably creative individuals, and to be able to utilize those talents to its fullest, to be able to enhance the city of Farmers Branch. And I don't know.
I think you've done that with the event that you created out of
Absolutely.
nothing. And that shows a lot. 'Cause I'll be honest, I couldn't do that. With no money, no budget, so I think that.
No
takes
money
a lot of
and-
pride.
And use the resources that,
Yeah, you took advantage and said bluegrass,
Mhm.
the blooming bluegrass is there, how can I utilize that, the full
Mhm.
potential? I think that that is a great example of what this committee does. Sorry, thank you.
no,
I
we appreciate
I
it.
appreciate that, because, I mean, obviously, I've been on it the longest since its inception. And so it's changed a lot over the years and what the committee looks like. So I appreciate that statement, because, after today, you're kind of like, well, what does that look like moving forward? And I know it's already kind of in question because that. And so, of course, my brain is already churning on how do we continue this without still, that's just how I work. I'm like, okay, doesn't mean it's over. What's the next chapter? How do we continue this, but through a different avenue? And we've already had
I
discussion.
feel like we need to also give her a hot minute. Put together a plan, because I know I went.
Right now.
I went to the economic development conference, the three cities, Farmers Branch, Carrollton, Addison had with the Chamber of Commerce 2 or 3 weeks ago. And she made a presentation there, and she's crafting a plan, but it's in process. It's not done yet. And I just asked her, will you have it in a month? And she said, I have parts of it in a month, but it won't be approved, but I feel like we've talked about a lot of stuff. We talked about having an art walk in
Yeah.
Mustang Station. That falls right under economic development and tourism. She may not know that we've had that conversation, so we probably need to just fill her up with stuff, and then she can
And I
create,
just to state that, because I feel like the energy got sucked out of the room of the creativity of the people that are sitting in here. And I don't want you to leave today going, well, I can't even use my creativity and my wisdom and why I chose to be on this committee. And I think it's so important for y'all to know, please don't run.
Right.
We need you. We want your creativity.
Absolutely.
And we will get through this together, and we will find ways that we can utilize our great talent. So please hang in there. We'll figure it out. And we will do great things for the community. So please, please, please hang in.
To piggyback off what you have just reiterated, every time we have a meeting, there's always the future agenda items. And I think we could incorporate what you're suggesting as popcorning ideas as, an item that falls under there where we say, I went to the city and they have this really cool thing, and just kind of talk about it, and then, start formulating ideas where we can kind of branch off from it.
Well, and I will tell you, we hit a lot of roadblocks with Branch Arts Live. I just wasn't gonna let it. I just kept going. But what if? And so, and it takes our creative brains to do that. So
Absolutely.
please.
So, I'm sorry, Branch Arts Live, last year was the first year?
Correct.
Okay, so that's current council,
Correct.
okay? And they didn't come to you and say, we want something. You said, I want to do this.
I was told actually that they were trying to decrease the amount of events, not increase them. And this actually, Amy and I were sitting at a boards meeting, a boards and commission, the banquet. And we were saying how a lot of times the discussion is always about the visual arts. And I said, well, then we can change that. So let's figure out how to incorporate, and we decided, because we both have dance backgrounds, to start with dance, because that's what we know so well. So it was a lot easier for us to be able to do it for free and figure out how to do all those things. So that's how we started that. And then that's when we were said, okay, well, we're not adding events. And so then we really wanted the event in April, but then we kept going back to what if, what if, what if? And then the big what if, when we found out, you know, with the bluegrass, and that stage is still there until it gets picked up on Monday. And we're like, okay, what's that date? You know, can we do that? And so it was just trying to,
That's genius.
And
Well-
remember Hillary and I and Perla are here to support this committee also.
Okay.
And we want to see art in the city and whatever that looks like, whether it's fine art or public, you know, art, physical art. We are here to support you all.
so we can stand alone, or we can be completely 100% supported by the city. Because
Just depends.
That is,
I mean, we can.
that's just foggy to me. Because I heard you say earlier that this event was an arts and culture event. It was not a city event. What's the
Yeah,
distinction?
Okay.
The Bluegrass Bluegrass Festival was held and then the stage and their facilities
I
were
get-
left in place, so they were able to just piggyback and utilize.
I get
what was
that.
Already there.
I get that, but why is it not considered a city event if the Arts and Culture Committee is part of the, yes, Amy?
Because as a private business owner, Amy's Studio of Performing Arts applied for the application to use the space.
Ah,
City funding.
No city fund.
gotcha.
But Arts and Culture Committee supported what was going on in the city.
Yes, and here's the thing. So when we're talking about economic development, so Don and I kind of patterned this off an event that no longer exists called Dance for the Planet, that Brianna knows exactly what I'm talking about, that started off as a small event. It was an event put on by the Dallas Dance Council, and it grew and grew. Well, I guess it still kind of exists, but it's in a different format. Anyway, it grew and grew and grew. It brought in, I'm not exaggerating, ladies, right? Thousands of people to the city of Dallas for the event that was over 3 weekends. Thousands of people that stayed in hotels and purchased meals, et cetera, et cetera. It was a big, big draw. And we were thinking, well, it doesn't look like that anymore. Can Farmers Branch grab some of that? And so this is a small version of that we're starting, but I do know it has a lot of potential. There's some other similar events that we have talked about as a group. We're putting them on hold for now. Will there be the time that comes up that it's the appropriate time and place to add those in? I think so. So I don't think it's that we have to totally discontinue all thoughts of we're creating projects. I just think maybe now we need to be in a preparation stage. And then when the time is right, figure out how we're going to get it done. Does that help?
Okay. I think.
Yes, yes, thank you.
Another thing that's really helpful is that y'all started it as a dance thing because y'all had, you know, the background of dance and the, you know, ideas from the previous event, but y'all have expressed that you wanted to expand upon it in different formats. And one of the things that I was reaching out to an artist who's doing like a VR exhibit, traveling around the country that people aren't able to go back to that are from there originally. So they're like wearing the VR sets and like traveling around the country, like seeing waterfalls and beaches and all this stuff. And he's coming right around when Branch Arts Live is coming. And I was asking him if there's anybody he could adjust those because he hasn't even picked a venue yet in Dallas. And I gave him a list of like, here's some suggestions and why. Like it's right off of the train station, so public transportation is easy. And, you know, Farmers Branch already has a pretty large community of these people that would be interested in it. And then if you advertise it well, maybe you can get like food trucks or restaurants and like expand upon the event. And since they're already having the dance part of it and it's gonna be here, I didn't know if maybe like the new facility would be available for that VR, because I think they would need obviously electricity, power or whatever. And like maybe a quiet facility, but then like they could also utilize the facilities that are being provided by the dance exhibit. I don't know, it was just a thought.
It's a great ideas. I think that's where you guys are getting with it. So I think this is I think you're right. We went from getting crushed to, okay,
Mhm.
now here's our creativity. So now I think that's exactly what this board is for. I
And
love it.
Perla, I'm gonna ask you, I know that you had plans that you cannot share, which is fine. But can you tell us that, yes, hang on, there's some things coming and, things that we can
Yeah, well,
sink
the-
our teeth
the
into
venue- Venue 1842 is under tourism historical park now too.
Mhm.
So that.
We all manage it.
We manage.
We can get discounts for that or
Well,
break?
that's on my long-term thing to kind of see the revenue structure and maybe go back to council. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of things that I need to get done. And like I was telling, we were talking briefly over here. First, I have to get staffed. I'm not even fully staffed, but, we're doing branding. So each district branding as well. So there's a lot of ideas, talking to the businesses as well. They give you ideas about murals and stuff. So we have things, I just need to.
And then activities within activities, like the pickleball thing that's happening, I'm sure y'all could find a way to incorporate arts and culture into that with like a hands-on thing to get the kids doing
Get
stuff.
started, correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of ideas. There's just not enough of me. But, yeah, again, it's the venue here, the ideas of events within here to generate tourism, to generate people, even the Mustang. I think I met a friend there because I didn't even have time. And they're like, I didn't even know this place existed. So again, it's just that entire tourism thing. So there's plans.
So
But again, just-
we're an extension of that vision.
Correct, yeah, but you can just, even if you left me completely out of it, I think you guys have great ideas on standalone too, but yes, there is ideas. Can be done, but-
So at the beginning of this discussion, I was hearing it has to come from council, but really a lot will be coming from you.
Yeah, I'll go to council and say I need to do this, and then we'll bring it to you.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys watch study session or council, always throwing stuff on there, so sure it'll trickle down some way.
Yeah, and you can go put in citizen comments if we come up with something here that we might be able to put in their ear that would then trickle down back.
Cause at any given point in time, council can direct me and say, oh, we had citizen comment that they want this here, let's go at it, and that's what I do.
So I think if we could move on to the West Side Art Trail and then like Jennifer suggested for future agenda items, like what do we want to discuss next month? This is the format that has been in place for a couple of years and maybe it needs to change. Maybe, our subcommittees we already talked about definitely will change. And what does that look like moving forward for our next year? And I think more discussion next month could be good and we can throw ideas out and we can kind of put something on paper and then maybe in November be to a point where we can vote on something that gives Perla time to see her vision for the future of all of us that she's inherited that we're excited to be part of. And go from there. How does that sound to everyone?
So moved.
Okay. Amy, so we're ready to move to West Side Art Trail.
Yes.
So I'll talk a little bit about that. So we talked briefly about that last month and this has been ongoing for 2 years now. So I did include an updated map. Thank you to Perla and her team in planning. If you look at the map, it's attachment. The yellow is the easement area of the West Side Art Trail. So that is the area where the 3 art pieces will potentially go. That will be city management and city employees will discuss that for exactly where along this yellow area, because It needs to go in the easement area that the city, maintains.
Question, when you're saying easement, you mean the median
Yeah, maybe
versus
so.
the side easements?
Yeah. That's-
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because I
There
drove
today.
it,
yeah,
and there's only one side easement
yeah,
that makes sense.
right.
And all the others, there's actually dead tree places waiting for artwork down the middle.
And no, and isn't that perfect?
Uh-huh.
So and the more we discussed it and as we, I mean, had a few visions with this, but when we looked at this map, we're thinking yes. And that's the discussion there. So we will keep you updated on that. I know you all, wanted to take a look at the artwork. I did send you our website. All this information is on the Arts and Culture website, but here we did kind of report on it along the way to tease the community like, hey, look out for this artwork. It's taking longer than hoped, but we're near the end of this. So it did show it, some of it being fabricated to the point of being delivered and the individual ones like Jeffy Brewer here. So he has a whole catalog and was fantastic to work with. And you see the schematic and so it's fun. Can we add more pieces? Jeffy, it's a little more whimsical. Stephen Lee, who was a student at Dallas College under Natalie, our former chair. He had Brandon Taylor here was the fabricator for both pieces. And this is Brandon Taylor right here, the artist here. So we hopefully will see these be put along that West Side Art Trail in the
So-
very near future.
These are all in the center median. That's it. That's what you just said, right?
That's what the recommendation.
Yes,
from
that is
committee
the,
is
yes.
saying.
Except that isn't there a place along the lake? I thought that there was one
Yeah.
place along the lake.
Yeah.
Well,
Discuss.
it's in the corner, people are taking a second look at it. So the middle of the lake, which was the ideal spot, is owned by HOA. It is not city-owned property. And so to avoid that, we want to go to where the city is maintaining the property and the easements look to be the best.
Okay, and again, we're talking about the medians, not on the sides, because there are a couple of intersections that had great big, like triangular
Right.
pieces of lawn, and that's not
But
included?
those would be part of the developments.
Yeah, that's not on, city
That's right.
doesn't have any rights there.
Correct.
Okay.
So
That's
I
fine.
would, unless I hear differently, I'm thinking along that yellow, that the planning, the map that the planning.
So do you know where you want to place everything or can we talk about that or we're kind of past that?
Yeah, we're gonna put, that is gonna be put on the city staff. We'll
Okay.
discuss it and then we will let you know the progress made on that. But the art is in the possession of the city and we have the map, the updated map from planning. And it's just a matter of picking the 3 spots that will work best for the art pieces.
Okay.
So do we need to make a motion to
No.
do that?
Mm-mm. Nope. I just wanted to keep you updated because I felt last month, like David said, back in May and June, we gave all these PowerPoints and presentations and we talked about it. And we thought over the summer, all this artwork would be already installed and then new direction and change. And so with that being said, we do have them in our possession. It's just a matter of putting them along the easements along the west side for the community to enjoy. So that is why I wanted to include it in this month because it was requested, but you could always go to the Arts and Culture web page and it is, all the information is there. And then, okay, Amy, do you want to ask about future agenda?
Yeah.
You could,
Yeah, I would like us to go ahead and right now get down what future agenda items we want to talk about. Obviously, subcommittees.
I
That's
think there was a request for the ordinance or the purpose of the committee.
and I'm hoping to send that out by the end of the week.
Thank
I have that. I just can't put my finger on it, but I do have it in my email and I will send that to you. I'm hoping tomorrow morning. So,
Can we ask them to maybe be able to bring back up that piece of artwork that they wanted to replace that fountain in the back of the city hall? Does that fall under our purview?
No, it was in front of the Branch Church, right?
well, there's two. Yeah, one was, the one behind City Hall is on hold right now. And then the one across, from the Branch Church is gonna be left as a fountain, is my understanding.
Yeah, budget got approved for it left as a fountain, and we can reach out to finance, fleet and facilities on what's going on with City Hall. I don't know if they were waiting for the budget to get approved, but we can let you know what's going on with that one.
Yeah.
So the history behind the Branch Church one is that that little pocket park at the fountain was dedicated to a community member. And so they did, part of the budget, like discussions that occurred was like eliminating that part or replacing that fountain with an art piece. But then they realized it's dedicated to someone, so they have removed that off of it. I think it was like a $40,000 to $60,000 cut that they were trying to make to the budget. Because every year when it freezes, they have to redo that fountain.
No one's taking care of it.
Yeah, instead of putting it like in a below ground box where they could insulate it, the facilities are above ground, and so it freezes and they have to repair.
And they tried to get away with that, get away from that, and they decided they couldn't.
They realized they couldn't because, yeah, it's dedicated to,
The
I can't
minister,
remember it, yeah.
the minister at the
Yeah.
church.
What else? Any other?
I think it would be good if, we brought back to the committee the Arts and Culture District and the branding. There's a deck, it's probably on the website, but, I think it would be good to have that, as part of next meeting's packet.
Yes, I agree.
Everyone can see what that is.
Yes, I
Not-
agree.
We'll not make any changes to it, but at least people will know what it is, you know, around the table.
It is all.
Including Pearl, if she hasn't seen that.
Well, and I did last month. Yeah, and I did last month hand out, this is the branding for it. So, but yes, I think that's great to put on as a future agenda item and we could, yep.
Because as
And
that to develop, that'll be something that we can have some involvement in as the arts district continues forward. So I think that's great, David.
We talked about an art walk in Mustang Station at least for a year. I would like that to be on Perla's list. If she wants to do it, great. If she doesn't, tell us, I don't want to do that, and then we take it off our list. But it involved including the restaurant owners, it involved, I mean, there's been all kinds of discussions about it, maybe even going across the street to the theater and blah, blah, blah. But, and having local artists come and do they set up booths or do they, what, you know, I don't know what all that looks
Are
like.
you having trouble picturing that? Is that like in the parking lot? kind of?
No, I think it's pretend like you close down Mustang Station at B Street, so cars can't drive in there in the parking
Mhm.
lot. The whole parking lot's empty and artists set up and it's almost like downtown Carrollton does. when
Okay,
They bring
gotcha.
everyone.
All right.
Yeah, there may be a band. I mean, you could do anything, but the idea is to bring people into local businesses and to support arts. That was the original idea. That may not be the plan at all now, but I thought it was a good idea and it's been brought up a lot and it was never really executed, just lots of talk about it.
So would we like to put it on the agenda for October
I
to
think so.
discuss
And
it?
then Perla can tell us,
Yes, I
you
would
know
love
what,
that.
this is great, pursue, and you need a committee for this, or no, let's delay this, you know,
Yeah,
for a
you
year, or
definitely
that's
need
a
a
horrible
subcommittee
idea,
for
whatever.
that. Cause that's gonna be a
Yeah,
big undertaking like we did for Branch Arts Lab. I mean.
And then we had, I have one more than I should have. We had,
No,
at one point, there is a piece of land that is owned by the city that is, so if everyone can think of Valley View Lane across from Cox Market. Cox Market's right there at Mustang. Across the street, there's a pink dry cleaner building. Right next to it, across the railroad track, there's this plot of land. And it's not big enough to do anything with, but it's large enough that it could be a pocket park. So there was conversation at one point about that. becoming a gateway to the city as a arts park. And so, again, I think that goes back to Perla and to staff. You
David,
know, I think,
I think there's an update on that though, David.
okay.
All right, we talked about it. Awesome. Would you like to hear?
Well, I'm gonna defer to you to talk about it.
We talked about that small piece of land, but again, with parks being cut, who's gonna do the maintenance of it?
Yeah.
So, that goes back to what type of art piece do we want? What do we want with it? What's the long-term goal with the Bellevue diet? Being denied, being, not recommended to move forward. How is the traffic to cross it? So I think there's a lot of, I think it's a great idea, but I think that's gonna be more of a long-term goal.
Okay.
But, yeah, with a lot of different factors, I wouldn't want anybody crossing that road.
With that being said, though, there is an electrical box that is wrapped at the corner. I made sure that we had Mustang Station branding right there because I still love that corner.
That can also be another subcommittee of ideas looking in the long term, but again, with parks being cut, who's gonna maintenance it? You put a park bench, do you need to put a trash can? I mean, that's just me and my mind going crazy, but I'm glad that you mentioned it. So a lot of these things that are being brought up, trust me, we are talking about.
As citizens, we also need to be paying attention to what's coming up and what's happening, like the Branch Connection is being renovated and they might have a need for new art or
Agreed.
suggestions. Maybe get it, the students from Turner, they're doing AP projects to paint murals or something.
And
They
then
love that over there. I think
I
they.
Somebody, the mural of the Mustang Station branding, I've asked for this for several years because I think it would be a great backdrop for selfies. So I want some business, and poor David tried so hard to get one of the restaurants to put the mural. So maybe we need a, please, can we use your business to put Mustang Station mural on your business committee?
I already know. Well, I already know.
No tax reduction, they'll do it.
anybody else have anything for next month's agenda?
No, I think subcommittees are gonna take up the bulk of it.
Well, I appreciate everyone coming and it's volunteering their time to be on this committee. And please join the ride with us as we move forward. We're excited. It changes. We have to pivot here and there, but please, like, I want to reiterate what Dawn said, please be with us for the long haul for the next year. And I think there's a lot of exciting things coming and I'm excited to see what the future holds. So thank you all very
One
much.
thing that just popped into my mind, you know that the park that got caught on fire, they're putting new facilities in there, new like playground equipment. And maybe there could be an opportunity to have like a welcoming party that
A
we can
re-grand
incorporate like community art stuff.
I'm a member of the Visual Art League of Louisville. And they do a lot with the city. They are sort of an independent organization. They are not a city organization. It's not like this, but it's a group of artists. But they work with the city and they do things like show up at festivals that are sponsored by the city and they have, they help with art things, table art stuff. They also do, there's a town square in Louisville. They'll
The
take
sidewalk.
turns, they'll set up, take turns, different artists will set up an easel and just do live painting so that people coming by can have discussions and learn about art. They also have associations with local restaurants where they they have permission to display art within those restaurants and those businesses. And, on a rotating basis. And the organization helps to facilitate that. And I think it's beneficial to both sides, economic development for sure. If you have, free art in your restaurant, I think that elevates things. Anyway, there's a lot of ideas for.
No, and I love that. And maybe that's its own subcommittee even to, that's why I wanted to bring the sign up sheets for a couple of our events to, get arts and culture out there. They requested a step and repeat, the committee, and, to get out there to have a table to showcase, what art, what
Our presence?
Yes,
Is that what that means?
well, yeah, and the creativity of artists and what they bring to the city and the future can look like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when everybody's thinking about, like, put that down and bring that with you next month to the meeting so that we can, maybe that's a whole committee by itself. That's what our point was, that things have changed dramatically. And it's not just that things have changed in terms of the goals of the city. The people on the committee have changed. We have different focuses and different gifts and different backgrounds. And so we need to make sure that our committee is reflecting the talents of the people that we have on our committee. So you may look at what we've got down and say, I don't think any of that works for me. Great. Let's move on. Let's do something different. So I'm excited for the direction we're going. I would love to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. I have been sitting on a wooden dance floor at Casa Manana all this time, and I'm tired of sitting on the floor.
Yeah.
I make a motion.
Second.
Excellent. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you all. The meeting is adjourned.
And the time is it adjourned?
7:36.
7:36.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
Bye, everybody.
Sit on a cushion.
Get on.
Hi, Bonnie.
Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it.
Bonnie, I drove this street and I took pictures, if you want them, of where every piece, there's literally 3 spots with dead trees.
There are, you're not wrong.
Just
You know,
sitting there.
it's supposed to be managed by the homeowners association, and there's a big thing about the communities having to pay for the homeowners association fees that manage that, and they want to move that to the city staff. It's
Thanks for all the
For
history.
the middle of the road.
Yeah, because
Hey, David, Tad Perry.
It says here
Nice to meet you.
to import.
From there.
Hitting
And I was reading.
I look at your name and I keep trying to figure out, how do I know?
Yeah, so where
Click
where
on-
were you corporately?
Before the
Oh, that's
fossil,
and then
No, before
for
that.
15 years, I worked at a sunglass company called Bonneau for 15 years, and then I was at Vision Works in San